people who are on my lineup and her lineup were people who have seen us through life. I think people would have expected that my lineup would be members of parliament. I don't know what. No, not at all. Not at all, because you see, those are people you work with. You need to have people who you have been with and people who are close to your heart. So that morning, George had not come. He's the only one who, and he kept time. He said, I'll be here by 6. At 6 he was here. So there we are here, and then of course, I was dressing up, and then the best man came and knocked my door. I thought he wanted to wake me up. I did not want to wake up, to be honest. I was like, oh yeah. Well, the time for waking up was 6, but I think I woke up around almost 7. We took a shower, and then I started now wearing the first time my tuxedo. But then now, the vehicles, our Volkswagen Beetles, had not arrived. So we were wondering, where are they? We had been told, oh, no, so we were coordinating with the guy in charge of transport. And then some few were sent away. They came. I was really minding about time because of the instructions we had been given in church during the rehearsal. But when we were moving, guys were getting very excited on the road. So they kept on waving, calling me Mwaura, whatever. But they didn't know what was happening. But they were very excited about seeing those little cars. Now, what now was now making me worried is because I didn't know whether my mother had gone to get the bride in good time. And then, so there was the kind of a delay. So by around 10:15 is when they arrived in church. But then that time I was also worried, because you see, Kenyans don't keep time. And we had clear instructions to start the service at 10. And then the church, we had already psychologically prepared that we will not have as many people in church because of lack of keeping time. So we thought like people should just sit next to the aisle. But when we look back, I think our worries were unfounded.
The makeup artist was supposed to arrive at 6 with my best mates, but they had some sort of delay, so they arrived at around a few minutes past 6. I only spent the night with a few bridesmaids because some of them are are actually married women with kids. So I found it unnecessary to actually demand that they come spend at my house, knowing how hectic it can be with babies. And I think all the babies are below 2. His mom and, of course, the women who were escorting him came outside. They started singing. Of course, they have to knock the door. The gate is opened with some cash, which had already been agreed upon. So there was no, you know how you go to some weddings and now the struggle starts. We didn't want that kind of thing. We had actually said, even if it's an empty envelope, let that signal of the gate being open just be opened. And we had been told we have to do the church at 10. So I was just like, okay, it's here. I was not nervous for some weird reason. I was not nervous. Of course, when my mom was talking to me, telling me that she's proud of me, I felt like crying and it was really emotional. But I was just like, this makeup is too expensive. Please do not cry. And then, of course, we prayed together and we got into my bridal car with my mom and my best mate. The thing is, people expected me to live in a limo, Range limo, whatever. But they were actually surprised to see the vintage, was it a Bentley? I think, a Bentley vintage Yeah, so it was an actual surprise, and the car was really tiny. It could only accommodate the three of us. So yeah, and then we proceeded to church. Of course, people were saying hi and hi. She was like, people are so happy about weddings. And then, of course, she was laughing at how people on the roadside, because it was an open car, how people on the roadside were shouting. They're like, hey, stop that girl. That. So that girl has just gone like that. So she was really excited. My mom was very excited. When we arrived in church, of course, they ushered the car where it's supposed to stand. Then I see my head usher with one usher inviting people in. And the other ushers are nowhere to be seen. So I'm like, where are the ushers? They should be calling people in. And then, of course, the pastor tells us it's okay, we can relax. They're preparing for some visitor. I'm like, okay. And my best mate tells me, don't worry, there's a surprise visitor in church. I'm like, okay. And of course, I see him looking at the car. So I do like this. I'm like this. You shouldn't see the bride before the the wedding. Were you seeing me?
I just saw the car and then that's what I thought I would see you coming out.
Yeah, and of course,
But then
people
I
are coming
couldn't.
to say hi. For some reason, I was very calm. I was just, let's do this. So, of course, the kids dance, and I have to get in. The song starts halfway. So I'm like, no, start it all over again. The coordinator, I'm like, I won't enter. Let them start it. Because it began at the middle. I'm just like, no. So they started the song and we got in. Of course, my mom was walking a bit fast, so I was like, slow down. Let's walk slowly. And I was like, how do you feel? She was like, yeah, I'm okay. I feel good. I'm okay.
And what are you?
I'm walking down the aisle. I was so relaxed. I was actually so relaxed. I don't know, for some reason I was just like, this thing is happening. I look pretty. Oh. I was saying, oh my God, I'm walking down the aisle.
It was very, very beautiful. I've never seen something like that. It was a very emotional moment. I mean, it's beautiful. And I said to myself, I almost shed a tear actually. I don't know whether people noticed, but I was very emotional about it. And I said to myself as a born-again Christian that if this is how Christ will see the church, because the church is a bride of Christ, then it must be something very beautiful. At that point, I mean, my mind flashed back so many years. And I said, it has come really, 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 it's a long way coming. You know, you see all your life, your dating life. I mean, this is it now. This is it. I mean, this finally, it is here. This is a woman of your life. I mean, and that was beautiful. In fact, you know, there's a way we had rehearsed that then they will reach up to some point, and then I'll go and get her from the mom. I hesitated. I think the best man almost prompted me because now I was taking too long to look at her. I mean, it was beautiful. I think there's no any single word to describe that. It was very emotional, almost spiritual, I think. Yeah.
It was just, for some reason, I was very calm. I was aware that it was happening, and I was just taking it all in. But for him, he was sweating. He looked very, very nervous. I think that was the first time I've seen him that nervous.
Yeah, I was nervous because I thought anybody can come and destroy my wedding. You know, they can come. You know, you never know who is malicious. As a politician, You don't know who your political enemies are. Politics, yes, politics can be very dirty. Yeah, it can be. People will be very glad to hear that Honorable Mwaura'S wedding was disrupted. Make news. So you have to be very careful. We never left anything to chance. That's why there was very heavy security. When Mukami's mom was giving her to me, it was very emotional for me. Again, it was, this is a responsibility. It was a shot in the arm at the same time, like, you are now a man. I mean, now you're not a boy anymore. And then, like, at the same time, it was like, take care of her. And it was a very, very beautiful affirmation. And, you know, that moment when you feel like it's now happening. Those are moments. And you see, my mom also was very glad to receive her. She was over there. You see, so it was very good. They are very good friends, to be honest. They are very, very good friends. The love my mom has for her is, I don't know, it's unfathomable. It's very good. And my uncle was there, so standing in as my dad. So it was very good for them to be with me. Yeah. At that point is when you fully now realize that that this is a historical moment set up in time. It's like it's happening. It only happens once. So it's very sentimental.
And I ask you, is there any reason why you should not, cannot be lawfully joined in marriage to this man, Isaac Mwaura?
There is no reason.
There is no reason. Amen.
When you say those vows, you're kind of repeating. And you've heard them before in weddings, so they are not new. Sometimes you even want to correct the pastor because of the eagerness. I think you will listen to how I was saying it, and the pastor, there's some little form of variation. But the magnitude of it, I think you may want to reflect about it much later. And that happened for us when we went for the honeymoon. I remember, you know, like, Nase, do you know we actually said this? And she would also say the same. So it hits you much later, other than the actual moment. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful to make that commitment, because when we were doing our premarital classes, they say that marriage only, they asked us a question, when does marriage begin? And the conclusion was it actually starts when you make a vow, a public vow. So it was very, 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 very crucial.
I, Isaac Mwaura, take you, Elias, Kami, Wamba,
Standing with you in trials, rejoicing with you in victories, to love, to cherish, and to submit, till death do us part. After I finished signing the certificate, I was just like, wow, there are 3 papers that you have to sign. I was just in my head, I'm like, let me make sure that the signature is the normal one. Those are my feelings. And then after I signed and it was his turn to sign, my best mate started crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? No, in my head, I'm like, relax. So she was just like, oh my God, why are you not? She was like, oh, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. And I was like, thank you. And I kept my smile. When we went for the honeymoon, I would sit down and I'm like, wow, I actually signed a certificate. And sometimes, because I carried mine, I would take it out of the bag and just be like, oh.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I think I was not checking.
Yeah. Given, I put it in his pocket. But now after we went, I was packing the things and I just put it in my handbag to carry. It's my certificate. So I kept on checking it. Yeah, you did notice I used to go to the safe a lot.
Oh, that's for the reason.
So I was just like, oh my God, my certificate.
I'm told by my mom that immediately I finished singing the song, people started crying. The women that they cried in church. So I don't know. I think it was a good moment. The song is about us keeping the promise that when we contemplate to do other things, we should remember the vows that we've made today and the love we share together. So it's about exalting God and also about our love. Because we would want to grow closer to each other as we draw closer to God. That for us, God is a key pillar of this relationship. Yeah. Posted, yes. I composed it myself.
But he loves doing things that are surprises. He loves those romantic gestures, and I know he loves music. So I was flattered that he had gone to that extent of thinking about writing a song for me, and it felt good.
Very eligible bachelor, mbunge ambaye alikuwa hana bibi tayari, sasa amechukuliwa. Wapi nduru na vigelegele?
What happened is that there were a list of guests that were supposed to speak in church. And unfortunately, there was not enough time. So my parliamentary prayer breakfast, we have a fellowship in Parliament, so the chair was supposed to speak. I'm also the chair of the Kenya Disability Parliamentary Association. The members of Parliament were there, and others. So the MC just recognized all the dignitaries who were there, but then only allowed the personal assistant to the president to speak.
May you take this opportunity, Honorable Isaac Mwaura and Nellis Mukami. I take this opportunity, Honorable Isaac Mwaura and Nellis Mukami, to wish you both well as newlyweds and that you enjoy a very long and prosperous future as husband and wife. Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya.
So Jomo doesn't like speaking in public, but he spoke and gave the congratulatory message from the president in an envelope. And then, so he said he would have loved to be here, and then he actually gave us that, and of course we passed it on. And then he told us there is a gift. So I told him, please, we must announce that there's a gift. So he did come back to the microphone and say there's a gift there. So we had a gift voucher there from the president.
And inside there's also a gift to the couple from the president.
And then when I think the MC was going on doing other announcements, he whispers to me and said, where are you going to do your photo shoots? Said, at Windsor. Said, there's some place I would want to take you. That was it. So we finished, we danced our song out, we were declared husband and wife, before that, and then we went and took the first few shots. The pastor was rushing to the next wedding in Karen. And so therefore, when we were there, everybody wanted to take photos, and there were a long queue. So the MC did something very interesting, said, please keep off, we want to do something very big, a very big photo shoot. I thought he wanted me to lift the bride or something. And then we were just whisked into a vehicle, a waiting Mercedes-Benz. I didn't know we were going to State House. So I asked the driver, are we going to State House? He said, yes. So we go in. I've been there before, on other matters. And then we get in, and we go straight to the very VVIP place. We get into the corridors of State House. And we're walking through, and then we see the president walking to us. And that was beautiful. He just came to us, and he shook our hands. It was very nice, and he talked. We had of course talked with him about the wedding before. And we now went straight through and sat down, and he gave us, we toasted Shamdo together. And then we had a conversation, a very beautiful conversation there. And then took photos, and I asked him, is it the first time it's happening at State House? Yeah, it was the case, of course. It was the first time a couple had gone to State House. And then we talked, and then the head of public service came, and other people. And he was waiting to see the president of South Sudan, Salva Kiir. So we talked, and it was very good, by the way. He was very fatherly. Very fatherly. Uhuru was very fatherly. You felt like it was a dad. We were with our dad, there he is. And later on is when I came to realize that even he had a matching tie. At that time you don't even know. It's actually people picked that out. So he was actually coming to the wedding. It's only that he had a function at KICC. And now he had some delay. And of course we couldn't delay the ceremony because of that. There is something that seems to be the message of our wedding. When we went to meet the president at the State House, I could see the trail of thoughts around people is that it looked like for him, he was affirming the institution of marriage. And I remember he told me it's a good thing. And he's proud of his marriage himself. He said it to us, and that for me was very significant. And also, in Parliament now, the respect that people have had of me has gone very high. You see now, we were planning with Jomo how to get the photos. But even when we were there, the photos had already started going viral. I think by the time we left State House, what we came to learn later is that there were over 11,000 likes within few minutes. So I have tried to cut a niche above the confines of political parties. And that has been very deliberate. Because when you serve people, you serve people. And for me, the people, the special interest groups that I represent in Parliament are beyond parties. So it was that way, and I think that for me is very important. Being an ODM MP with the president, nominated by ODM and now with the president. And also, and this is the beauty of it as well, when we were there, the Prime Minister was waiting for us at Windsor. So when we just finished, we drove to Windsor, and there he was. He was already taking photos with the bridal team, and we took photos with him, and then he said he's coming to the reception, and we really liked the fact that he was with us for more than 4 hours. At Windsor, yes, we went and we found the former Prime Minister there. He was waiting for us. He was very happy to see us. He talked with us. He took photos with us. And then now we excused him, and then he proceeded to the grounds before us. We took some few photos with our bridal party, changed, and then now we found him at the reception. Now, as we were going, it was really beautiful. The convoy. We made deliberate choices of our grounds in Windsor, because it's a very short distance. I think it's 3 or so minutes. So that beautiful, it was wonderful. But then, coming in, now we were waving at people, and then, wow, our ushers. There was, of course, our bodyguards, in black. And then people were singing. The ushers made, a way, a kind of boulevard, and whatever. They were on both sides, in uniform, and they were singing, and there were so many people. And then that background of the artificial lake, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It felt princely, I think. Because of the fact that we had a lot of people and we had to bring people on board, it compromised on the dancing space. So they improvised so that we walked through, we sneaked through the tent, the main tent. And that worked very well. So we went around, we sang, we really did sing. And I'm happy. And then at some point, of course, then we had now to sit and then start the official, pleasantries in terms of presentations, speeches, performances. And there were musicians who are known by our people. Lois Kim is a very big Groove Award-winning gospel artist. And Jemima Thiongo, many people know her. The children from the school, the Ninga Melodies themselves. It was really wonderful and colorful. Yeah. It was an invites only, but actually we had an unwritten rule. First, I had given the power of admission to one of my staff, so that in case there's somebody who is not in the list and doesn't have a card, then they can give that, go ahead. Because you cannot have an auntie being chased away, yeah? That they are not in the list, and yet actually they are your relatives. You may just have forgotten. Then the other thing is that we knew for sure that nobody will be turned away. There are those who shied away, and that was the whole issue, so that you don't have an overflow of everybody who just walking in.
For somebody who would be getting married to a public figure, first I would say, accept them the way they are, accept that aspect. Once you accept it, you will be okay with so many things. For me, I wanted a wedding for very small people, very few people. But the moment I accepted that he was a public figure, I changed that concept and now started planning for a bigger wedding. Yeah? Accept who he is, accept that some things, my degree in political science helps me to understand that some things they have to do to show the world. They have to. Just because it's for them, it affirms their position in society, and you should be okay with that.
But eventually the people who came, we are happy that they did.
The way you look nice, continue looking nice. Sio saa hii ukishaoana, bora akikuja nyumbani, umevaa t-shirt kubwa imeandikwa singenge ni ng'ombe. Ama ukimwi inaua. Ama Mwaura for Uhuru. Ama baba for president. Look nice the way you look nice. Asanteni sana, Mwenyezi Mungu awabariki.
Wamesema ya kwamba we want Mwaura apewe promotion. I already know that Mukambi, you're marrying a great man, but I also know that this man is going to become a greater man in future. Take good care of him.
We want Kenyan women to be equal to men. Not that behind a successful man is a woman. Ask yourself, what's a woman doing behind a man? A woman is only useful in front of a man.
A lot of gifts. We really didn't expect that much, so we were humbled and honored to get all those gifts. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, all right.
The evening party was mainly for our friends, the bridal team and the ushers, and the committee, because those are the people who had really worked hard during the day. So we wanted them now to have a chance to relax and also eat and just have fun, because especially like the ushers, they're the ones who are running all over the place. So I'm sure most of them didn't have time to eat. They didn't have time to actually even dance, and so we thought we'd just make it very close-knit. Surprising thing was that he brought Sanai Paitande as a guest performer. I really love her music, and it was a surprise. So that one it caught me totally off guard, and I was really surprised because there was a time he kept asking me, "Who's your favorite musician?" I told him Sanai Paitande. He was like, "What song has she sung?" And I started unleashing all her songs. And she was like, I've never heard of her.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause.
We went to Bali. Bali
The island of Bali
Island.
in the Pacific.
I was really excited all through. I remember shopping before the wedding and all that. And then, of course, the journey was long. It took us almost 19 hours to get there. The culture is very, very rich. From the outfits, to the worship, to the food. You know how you go to some countries and you eat the same food that you would find, you eat the continental kind of food. It was like real Balinese food, and they do a lot of rice, which I love. So, yeah, but we really enjoyed, and of course we bonded a lot because it was just the two of us. We bonded. We took a lot of photographs. Yeah, it was really, really nice. It felt sad when we were coming back.
Yeah, I think first our tourist products are very expensive. We need to have them cheap. We had taken a holiday last December in Mauritius with some friends of ours. And for about $200, yeah?
17,000 Kenya shillings at that point.
Yeah, for a couple, you could do, I think 4 days, eh?
Yeah,
4 days tour, including lunch for, I think, 3 of the 4 days. In Bali, I think it was a bit more, but not very expensive. Here, a safari is costing very expensive. So our tourist products needs to really be subsidized. It needs to come down. Don't call for a committee to plan for your wedding or to help you mobilize funds and all of that. Help them, let them come to help you. We only had about 6 meetings, but they were basically coming to affirm what we have done. I want to credit her. She's a very good choreographer. She planned things very well. But every time we would review our budget, we would review our plans together before we move out there, so that even if there's an issue, we are speaking from one point. That really helped. And people should not expect that they will be funded their wedding for. Up to 90%, if at all, you fund your wedding. You should not, you should not be able to expect that other people will come and fund your fantasies. We met in 2012. I think around August or September.
He asked me for my phone number, and I was like, I know. It looks like one of those things, cliche things you find on Facebook. You ask for the number. So at first I refused, and then after some time I was like, okay, let me just give him my number so that he stops pestering me. At first he had this big godpapa. So of course we talked. The first date, small talk. But I also became aware that people were really staring, and people were saying hi to him a lot. Yes, so he was like, people knew him, and people also, those who did not know him were staring. I found it a bit uncomfortable because, you know, when at first date I'm blushing, you want to fidgeting and all, eh? And then you have now the additional pressure of other people staring at you too.
No, I was working as an advisor to the Prime Minister. And also because of being the national coordinator of the Albinism Society of Kenya and being in civil society, and of course having albinism. See, of course I'm conspicuous. I have led a very public life. So yes, people will know me. I'm a very public person. When you're a politician or a leader, generally, the greatest show of leadership is how you lead your family. I think there is no other better place to display your leadership qualities. And also that is the greatest source of support. If you have no support there's no way out there you can do anything. So I think the practice of leadership within the basic social unit, that is the essence of cohesion of the society, is a very integral part of what people think and say about you. I am also from a single parent background, because my father took off because I was born with albinism. So I've grown up with my brother and I. He disowned me. So I've grown up with my mother. Of course, it was because of ignorance. I mean, that time, 33 years ago, I've just turned 33, by the way, who would not have known, who would have known about albinism? I think it's good also to look at that aspect as well. There are people who think that when you have albinism or any form of impairment, then you don't survive. But then I have also made it very public. But of course, he denied me the joy of growing up with my own father. So he's my father, but he has not been my dad. It's my uncle who stood in as my dad. And that happens a lot in single parent backgrounds. It also happens to my dear one also. So all along, even the negotiations. Yes, the good thing about it is that when you grow up, there are other father figures. Our uncles have been there. When you go to school, you have them maybe male teachers, or there have always been people who have, so you kind of really can't say that you lack. But you see, children are not born out of trees. they have people who sire them. And those people must also show up and know that their kids do well. And it's good, because for me, if he actually ever had an issue with how it turned out to be, then, or what would be of me, I think God has been very faithful. When I became a member of parliament, I had interviews on TV with my mother, so that it should not be left to doubt that then she is actually my mother. I mean, so I think I've never made contacts, but I also want to say this to single parents. It's not, it's good for children to know their dads. And even those fathers should also be able to, even if you don't take care of them. It will be important for somebody. You cannot, I mean, you don't sire yourself. You must have come from somewhere. At least it's not about the Virgin Mary. so that is one thing that I think I would want to say. Even single ladies out there who sometimes I hear they want to say they want to have kids. No, they should know their dads. Even if what happened between you and your lover, whatever, at least people should know who is their father. Grow up with that notion that you have no father. And it's comfortable because you actually, my mother was, I really want to credit her. She has been both my father and mother in every aspect. She's really gone out of her way, absolutely, to provide me with the best that she could ever afford. And sometimes people want to have these high-level weddings and live alone. If you look at, it's good that maybe I say it at this, if you look at our guest list, we had people from all walks of life. Like for me, when I was doing my guest list, and I'm sure my dear one did the same, I even had people who were together at primary school. My primary school performed during the wedding. High school. Yes, they did. They did a song. Where I went to school, there are kids I'm taking care of there as well. So I have a connection. My secondary school, my teachers, some of them are there. A university, where I have gone to school in Leeds in South Africa. I had friends from there. I had friends from people who I've worked with in civil society, when I was office of the Prime Minister. Everywhere. I looked at, my life. And for me, that was very interesting.